Honk, it's my birthday?
That last honk absolutely got me. And why is he angry? He got exactly what he wanted, and let's be honest here, driving definitely hasn't been the same as of late, especially with scenes like this coming from Chicago. Hey, that might be their latest diversity unit. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name's Zukardowski here of wearechange.org, and things have been absolutely berserk, to say the least, especially when it comes to all the latest domestic news here inside of the United States that, of course, we are going to be talking about with a larger context to the nonsense, racism, hatred, and bigotry happening all the way up to our very unfriendly neighbors in the north, and that is the Canadians. They were always fake nice. Now we know exactly why, as they have some very interesting ties to Germans during the 1930s. We're going to be talking about that, plus a lot more, all here on this independent media broadcast. If you like the shirt that I'm wearing, you could get it on thebestpoliticalshirts.com, and the clips that we played in the beginning of this broadcast in this darkly lighted hotel room in one of the worst places in the world. Can you guess where I am? I will tell you at the end of this video. It's not a good place. It's truly one of the most hellish places on earth. Guess it in the comment section, and I will tell you where I am at the end of this video. As again, the clip that we played in the beginning of this broadcast was first originally cited by @Citizen Free Press, highlighting someone who is not having the best birthday. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? And the second clip we played in the beginning of this broadcast was shared originally by @Casey Wears Heels, highlighting the, very culturally rich, diverse locations of Chicago, Illinois, where it looks like the police officers have some very interesting partners in crime, as it's fair to say the lawlessness, in the face of all the laws there, aren't really working. And what did you expect with a crippled economy that is not doing that good, as the U.S. government keeps printing more money, spending more of it that it doesn't has, on wars, on the pharma-industrial complex, on the military-industrial complex, essentially giving out your money to all their really sick, disgusting friends and buddies in politics, as Jamie Dimon is warning right now that 7% interest rates would, quote, cripple the global economy. This as the Fed rates are still at 5.5%. Mortgage rates, 8%. Not for BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, though, that of course get to buy properties at a very low interest rate that you will never get in your life. This as many economists are predicting a bigger recession and further increases of the interest rates as a result to the larger geopolitical conflict happening right now in Ukraine. But don't worry, what does JP Morgan and Chase Manhattan Bank do during the middle of all of this? Well, they're just stopping the more free flow of capital, as JP Morgan and Chase just announced that they are banning crypto from their platform in order to help users with, quote, fraud and scams, which if they really cared about, they would stop working with, the U.S. Federal Reserve. But that's a whole nother problem that the majority of the American public does not understand, especially when it comes to the issuing and printing of currency, which literally comes out of thin air. This, as you still pay a lot of taxes. Why are you paying taxes when they just print money out of thin air? Well, that's a good question that a lot of people should be asking themselves, as the government looks to intervene more and more in your life, as the governor of California has just announced and signed a new bill into law banning school board members from deciding what kind of textbooks or adult explicit material their children read. Yes, Governor Newsom just signed into law in California a bill that prevents local communities and parents deciding what kind of books their children will be reading, as of course now state-mandated racial and sexual propaganda will now be forced upon the many children of these indoctrination camps that some people call schools in one of the wokest, most disgusting, vile-filled states in this country that routinely promotes degeneracy and the destruction of Western civilization, especially in Hollywood, a major exporter of this state and their larger degenerate satanic agenda. All of this as Gavin Newsom is trying to position himself to take over for Joe Biden, that many Democrats believe will not be running for the presidency in 2024, as Sean Hannity is now set to moderate a debate happening between the Republican governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, who is running to be president of the United States, and of course, the governor of California, a place where many people are fleeing from his state and going to, of course, the other guys, as Florida has had a huge, massive amount of increase of people seeking refuge in its warm, beautiful state, like personally myself. A little biased here, as you can see, as California is forced to, of course, import their local populations that they keep losing through a sanctuary state, open borders, and just horrific policies that have absolutely destroyed the way of life for many individuals here that, of course, are deeply suffering in California. But don't worry, if Gavin Newsom isn't your kind of thing, Hillary Clinton is getting back in the political swing of things, as she is officially warning Joe Biden about third-party presidential candidates, which according to some sources could be disastrous for the White House and are pretty effing concerning. Will she be making a return for the 2024 presidential elections? Well, with the way things are going, who in the hell knows, as of course anything is possible. And if one thing is certain is that you should sign up to LukeUnfiltered.com and get your almost daily dose of important information and content that we provide to you in a new video. There's going to be a new video only available for members of LukeUnfiltered.com right after this video. To get that, plus a plethora of amazing offers of value, 3 masterclasses, a forum to talk to other members, a members-only store, contest, giveaways, tickets, prizes, and also an in-real-life meetup that we are going to be doing in Southern Florida, October 8th, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. in real life meetup happening in Southern Florida, October 8th, only for members. We did this all over the country. I love doing this. I love meeting people. This is on the heels of the Beanie Man's event here on October 6th, October 8th. We're all going to be hanging out with all of the really cool, incredible people who are members of LukeUnfiltered.com. To become a member, click right here or click the link down in the description below first, then click here. It's quick, it's easy, it's simple, and you will get access to a new video that we're going to be doing today that's definitely very spicy and that we cannot talk about here on this particular broadcast, as of course we're getting into some health-related issues. We're also getting into crime and stats. Yes, a lot of the things that we cannot discuss here on this particular platform, those conversations plus a lot more happening on LukeUnfiltered.com. See you there right after this broadcast, as of course we are not done here with the absolute craziness that's happening to our neighbors in the north, and that is the very passive-aggressive, not-so-nice Canadians that really do love the Germans in the 1930s, as of course comedian Rob Schneider has just announced that he is canceling his trip to Canada after the Canadian government gave a standing ovation and a parliamentary honor to an SS officer. Now, whether this is done satirically or for actual purposes, I still think the way bigger story here is specifically how the Canadian government gave parliamentary honors and clapped and gave a standing ovation to a man that was fighting on the German side in the 1930s. Now, the reason they gave this man a standing ovation was because he was fighting the Russians that were, of course, allied with the United States, fighting the Germans. You would think someone at the Canadian Parliament would put 2 to 2 together, like, oh yeah, this is the guy that was fighting the Russians in the 30s. Who was fighting the Russians in the 30s there, Bob? That doesn't matter. Just bring the guy in. As of course, the blowback from this has been absolutely incredible to watch. as now Justin Trudeau is trying to blame this larger action by the Canadian Parliament on, quote, Russian disinformation. Yes, you heard that correctly. This failed drama teacher, divorcee, totalitarian government bureaucrat that loves to rule over people and punish people for political speech. Literally, this guy imprisons his political opponents, just like the Germans did in the 1930s, is now coming out and blaming that when the Ukrainian president was honored with a literal SS officer, that somehow Russia masterminded and manipulated this entire situation in order to make him look bad. And if Russia is that powerful, we should be really careful with what's going on and not try to get on their bad side. But I don't think that's the case here. I think what the drama teacher is saying here is just trying to cover his own buttocks, which he did a very poor job at.
Obviously, it's extremely upsetting that this happened. The speaker has acknowledged his mistake and has apologized. But this is something that is deeply embarrassing to the Parliament of Canada and, by extension, to all Canadians. I think particularly of Jewish MPs and all members of the Jewish community across the country who are commemorating Yom Kippur today. I think it's going to be really important that all of us push back against Russian propaganda, Russian disinformation, and continue our steadfast and unequivocal support for Ukraine, as we did last week with announcing further measures to stand with Ukraine in Russia's illegal war against it.
Yeah, I don't think Russian propaganda had anything to do with your parliament, with your office, literally worshiping, celebrating, clapping, and cheering on a literal SS officer, as of course it's important to note here that the Canadian government implemented a lot of very top-down disastrous policies within the last 3 years that were very awful for human rights, and that their policies very closely mimic the ones of the Germans in the 1930s, as of course now Poland, a country that dealt with many Ukrainian SS officers and other ones from Germany as well, is now officially seeking the extradition of this SS veteran officer that was just honored by Justin Trudeau. As of course it's important to note here that Ukrainian SS officers, especially the ones under Banderas, came into Poland and viciously slaughtered and hurt civilians in my country, Poland, who faced the full might of a German military empire that worked very closely with the Ukrainians, that went into Poland and literally took out women, children, men from all ages, from all backgrounds, in what was clearly ethnic cleansing that happened by the Ukrainians in the 1930s against the Polish people, who are now tremendously helping them out in this entire conflict that they're involved in. As of course, this is not the only tie to Germans in the 1930s, as of course, a Bilderberg member and a lady deemed the future Prime Minister of Canada, Deputy Prime Minister Christina Freeland, came out and talked about how wonderful her grandfather was when her grandfather was also fighting for the Germans in the 1930s. As many news publications are reporting that she knew about her family's past and then still tried to lie about it to the general public, as if her grandfather was really great and awesome. And of course, she's also blaming people finding about that as, quote, more Russian disinformation. Now, the very interesting part out of all of this is, where's the ADL? Where's the one organization that is supposed to be standing up for Jewish people against, the actual Germans during World War II? Where is the ADL here? As of course, they are, quote, awfully silent, even according to Chaya Radik, the founder of Libs of TikTok, who of course is a Jewish lady that was attacked by the ADL, as they right now are nowhere to be found when it comes to these larger issues and controversies that are real and should at least be talked about, but are not. All of this is also happening as, of course, Ukraine is still fighting Russia in the larger proxy war between the East and the West. As yesterday we reported to you that U.S. Abrams tanks have just reached Ukraine, which the Wall Street Journal is calling a case of too little, too late. This as the larger Ukrainian counteroffensive has been largely insignificant, and now Ukraine predominantly is dependent on doing pot shots against the Sevastopol naval base, while on the ground here it looks like Russia has built their land bridge to Crimea and will be holding it for the foreseeable future, as CNBC is reporting that Russia is smelling blood and that there is a lot of war fatigue amongst Ukraine and its allies that are questioning the larger strategy here, which is nonsensical and makes no sense. We told you this during the beginning of this conflict, and we said, hey, none of this adds up. None of it. This, as we're hearing that there might be even more escalations to the point where NATO could be sending troops to fight in Ukraine, a part of their larger, quote, counteroffensive, as Russia is already reporting that there are other members of NATO states fighting inside of Ukraine who were officially a part of their government's military, specifically coming from Germany is one example that I could cite. All of this as this war predominantly has been a playground for the Central Intelligence Agency that has been a major actor in a lot of the events that have led up to this situation, including, of course, the Maidan Revolution. All of this is happening as, according to Bloomberg, the CIA is now prepared to roll out an artificial intelligence that is going to, quote, shift through huge amounts of available data. What are they going to find? What are they going to put together? How else will they be using information to manipulate the general public? Well, who knows, but it probably won't be in your favor. As, of course, the situation in Europe is absolutely bleak, not just for the Ukrainians, but for everyone else. And it's a tragic situation. It's a horrible situation, as of course more young people keep losing their lives. And I think we should be asking the larger question, for what? What's the benefit here? What's the overall goal here? As of course we criticized this conflict from the very beginning. We criticized the Russians who of course started it, but we criticized the larger strategy here, as of course we still have not been told the larger objective, the larger goals here. What really is there to achieve? What is happening in Ukraine that is in our best interest? Please, we haven't had any of that. If you think I'm wrong, let me know down in the comment section below. And to answer your question to specifically where I am right now, I am in one of the worst places in the world, and that is Los Angeles, California. Why I am here? Well, I'm going to be talking about that on Unfiltered.com, as well as some really spicy crime statistics that are definitely worth delving into. Check out that video available for you now, Unfiltered.com. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys actively watching and sharing this video, and that's why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org, especially for my reporting here on the ground.